Hey everyone, and welcome to my review of In Time. Now, this is a movie I really do have trouble talking about, and this is the kind of movie especially where you have trouble talking about not because it's a terrible movie, not because it's a great movie, but precisely because it is in that in-between state that, frankly, it doesn't do anything so bad that it offends you, but it never does anything really great that it wows you either. So you end up with this mediocre film, more or less, that it doesn't really succeed entirely. But it's not a waste of time like some critics are saying. I would strongly disagree on that, and largely for reasons I'll get into in a minute, but the whole crux of this movie is that you age to 25 years and there's a system built in place where after that you have 1 year to live, and instead of currency you now buy time. Time for you to live, and once your time runs up you drop dead. And so it's created, of course, you know, the upper echelon has like 116 years or anything crazy like that to live. And they're betting time, you get the bank loans on time. And it's an interesting way to do things. Everything costs time. Taking the bus not only costs time just from your clock, but also to get there, so you're running out of further time. And it's an interesting way to build a interesting concept to build a story around. But I think for me the movie is really summed up in one scene. And while this is not a spoiler, I warn you, because I'm not saying any specifics whatsoever, but right as one character's clock is about to run out, they look at the camera as if they're about to say something and then die. Now, again, not really a spoiler who it is, what they are, when it even happens exactly. But this scene really stuck out in my mind because it is representative of the film as a whole. You know, it's a cool idea that it has going. All the times are displayed on their forearms here, and you look as if that character is about to say something, and then they don't. That's kind of what the movie is as well. It has this great concept that it builds upon. I really can't stress enough how cool of a concept this is. The movie ends up being just a slight twist on the whole poor man comes into money concept, and, you know, a little Thelma and Louise mixed in there. But otherwise, it doesn't really go further than that, and that's my problem with it, because the trailers make it out of this really kind of strangeness. How, you know, the most famous one of the trailer is my mother, my daughter, and my sister, and they're all the exact same age. And that's cool. I really like that. Those scenes of just strangeness and oddity because of the concept really gets you feel for this strange world that you're going into. And there's some good world building behind this. Clearly the person who is designing this movie put some good amount of thought into it. The problem comes down to the script, and which is unfortunately quite weak. There's a lot of time puns. They hold themselves back as best as they can, but they're still there. And even more so, it just goes places where it's very predictable. And it'll introduce interesting characters as well, such as Cillian Murphy's character as the timekeeper, essentially the police. And he's a fascinating character. And every time you see him, he's on screen, he really steals the show. He just commands attention. But they really don't do a whole lot with him when it comes down to it. And like I said, though this is a basic variation on a well-worn plot, it's a good variation. It just doesn't really pan out. They introduce a lot of cool ideas, trying to liberate time, the system of time, the nature of the system, and it's a very, very thinly veiled allegory, but I mean, it's interesting nonetheless. It just never really goes beyond that surface-level depth, and that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate. I've seen Gattaca, the director's previous film, but truth be told, I cannot remember too much about it. I cannot say more than the fact that I remember thinking more of that movie than I do of this movie. And that's not to say that every movie, every science fiction movie with a high concept idea has to be this deep meditative study or anything, but the problem is In Time doesn't really succeed on the other end either. It goes for this more basic action movie appeal to it, and while there are some moments that are very cool, particularly this idea of an arm wrestling game, where you can transfer your time to other people by kind of grabbing onto their arm, and you can steal or take it, and so actually winning or losing the arm game is life or death, literally, and that's really interesting. And again, the concept, the world building in this is really fantastic. You'll see 99-second stores, and everything is just built so nicely around time. And again, that one thing I was saying about those bank loans on time, and the person said, oh, I need a month, and they go, well, that's 30% interest, and I'm like, I can't pay that. And one funny line, a prostitute, in one of the few time puns that actually is cute, says, "I'll give you 10 minutes for an hour." I thought that was funny. But like I said, unfortunately, the story just really goes to predictable places you've seen before. You can pretty much tell how it's going to end, with a few exceptions, perhaps. But all the exceptions are even things that you would know how it's going to end. You just don't know which cliche it's going to end in. And that is really unfortunate, because like I said, the world building is fantastic. The actors do a really good job. Justin Timberlake definitely can carry a lead in it himself. Not given the best script, though. Again, I think he could just pull it a little tighter. But he does a great job in this, I think. Cillian Murphy as a timekeeper, fantastic. Again, as I want to mention, Alex Pettyfer. I like Alex Pettyfer. He seems a charismatic individual, but hasn't really done anything up until this point that's particularly great role. I Am Number 4 and Beastly and Tormented, not exactly going to win any awards soon for him or the movie. But does a believable job here. And I really don't want more to say about this movie. There's some cool designs for the police car, too, and that's actually why I'm going to recommend this movie. If you don't have anything else to see and feel like seeing a movie, then maybe you should see this. Or if you saw the trailer or were interested in it like I am enough to actually go see it, which doesn't seem to be too many of you because the box office is pretty poor, but if you were, it's not as bad as everyone's saying it is. It really isn't. It's just unremarkable, to be frank. Maybe a little disappointing given the director's pedigree, but other than that, it's not a bad film. It's better than some you've seen this year, or action movies, because the high concept appeal and the cast does a great job almost all around. But in the end, it falters under its own weight and unfortunately cannot deliver the goods. So take it for what you will. The effects are pretty decent for what they were. The music, wholly unremarkable. I can't remember it, and it's just been like less than 24 hours since I've seen the movie. But overall, it's not a waste of a time. It definitely, if you don't feel like seeing it in theaters, check it out sometime if you like science fiction. It's worth seeing, if only for the concept and the somewhat flawed but interesting execution.